I want to add on top with that.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Everybody has a skill. So you can get the university's degree you want, you can have the money you want, the financial freedom you want. But if you don't have the will to just take that action, it's nothing. Like, you can have all the skill, but if you don't have the will to willing to do it, you won't be able to achieve what you want.
In 1837, Horace Mann created the education system, a system at the time designed to pump out factory workers and professors. The same system that is still being used today in the 21st century. Now, Mann's system is backfiring. We are being moulded by the same industrial system that has existed for close to 200 years. That system delivers us into a digital economy that has no need of our outdated skills. This isn't our teachers' fault. This isn't the government's fault. This is due to a rapidly changing world full of technology and unforeseen circumstances. And us Gen Zs are caught in the middle. Welcome to the Driven Young Podcast, the podcast for stressed, overwhelmed young Australians, teaching you practical life skills you can implement now to set yourself up in life. And now your host, Byron Dempsey.
Welcome back to the Driven Young Podcast, and today I'm joined by Martin La. Martin reached out to me sharing a bit about his story. He is just an everyday guy like you or I who has overcome a lot, and I thought his story would be really relatable to you guys. In this episode, we talk about how Martin had suicidal thoughts after getting a 34.4 ATAR, taught himself how to read and write because at 17 he had a reading level of a 9-year-old, got a scholarship in plumbing despite never having touched a tool in his life, got the Encouragement Award of the Year in plumbing, ran a marathon and did the David Goggins 4 mile every 4 hours for 48 hours, started a podcast about mindset and motivation and how he overcame adversity, and much, much more. As per usual, DM myself or Martin if you enjoy this episode. I have some epic episodes planned, and I'm really starting to reach out to some big name people with some incredible stories, so stay tuned for those. Please consider leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts. That really helps me out, and I appreciate that a lot. Or DM me if you want to speak at your school. All the links are in the show notes below. Otherwise, over to Martin. Martin, welcome so much to the podcast.
Thank you.
Really excited to have you on. You reached out to me kind of sharing just a very, very small part about your story. Which sounds very impressive. Obviously, you're still on the journey, just like I am, and we're still figuring all this stuff out. But I thought you had a really cool story to share, so I'd love to just ask the question, what is your story? Like, what did you do after high school, and what are you currently up to, and what was, everything in between? What was that like for you?
So after high school, I graduated with 34.4 ATAR, and in an Asian household, that's a failure. And everybody had high expectations of me. Even though I didn't know how to read or write at the age of 17, it was just being scary. Graduating is a scary moment because that's when you transition to the real world. A lot of people don't think, a lot of people feel oh yeah, high school is the end all be all. But the truth is, once you start getting yourself out of high school, that's when life starts. And so I realized, when you're in high school, it's just like you're in a tiny little pond. When you get out of high school, you're thrown into the ocean and expecting things to happen to you. And so I started just educating myself, accepting the truth that I didn't know how to read or write. I got a 9-year-old reading level at the age of 17. And it was just really hard to accept. I'd rather just do something else that's crazy than just read. And so every single time when I see a word on the streets, I just go blank and I panic and I get anxiety every single time.
Which means school would have been really difficult on you.
Yeah, 100%. I was a kid who never raised up his hand for help and who wanted help, but was scared of other people's opinion. And so I realized after high school, the only way to grow is to seek discomfort. And that's what I've been doing since.
Yeah. And so you mentioned in the Asian household, did you have a lot of pressure on you to receive a high mark? And because obviously, so to give clarity to anyone who's not from Australia, 34 is, out of 100. That's your mark, 34 out of 100, which is obviously is a fail. But obviously, you know my opinion on the whole system. I think your marks don't define you at all whatsoever. But in terms of out of 100, you got a 34. And so what was your reaction like? How did you cope with that? Were your parents upset? Were you comparing yourself to other people? What was going on in your head there?
Really just so many things, because at a young age, I already knew that I didn't know how to read or write, but I didn't want to accept it. I didn't want to accept the truth that I didn't know how to read or write. And so when everything hit the fan and I got a 34.4 ATAR, I was like, oh crap, this is time to, it's really like, it shows that you didn't put in the work. It showed that like you failed through high school. What are you going to do now? And so I really started picking up my things. Like I realized like my parents, they had really high expectations on me, but they also knew that, oh, this guy, he had a broken brain. So let's just put him to the side. And there's another few kids in my family like who picked up their game. So it was just accepting the truth that I was in this state and changing it in the present moment.
And how did that whole process affect you mentally? Like, obviously, that would have been a real struggle to not be able to read and write correctly in high school, considering that's essentially all you do. When you're in class, you're reading, you're writing, you're doing worksheets, you're doing all that sort of stuff. So how did that affect you mentally?
Whew. That's mentally, it was just draining. Like I would just hear constant thoughts in my mind after getting 34.4 ATAR that I was a failure. I kept repeating to myself that I was a failure every single day for 3 months straight. And I would ask myself, why the hell am I living? Like every single day going through suicidal thoughts. I wanted to kill myself just because of this stupid number. You should never define yourself by this, like a number, because once you start defining yourself by that number, you won't move anyway. So the only way to grow is just move on and accept the fact that you are in that state.
Yeah, and I think it's so important, especially when it comes to your ATAR or whatever your end of mark high school is called, right? It doesn't define you. Obviously, go for the best one you can get. Like, don't just give up, right? Go for the best one you can get. But understand it doesn't define you. If you get a really high ATAR, that doesn't mean you're really, really intelligent. And if you get a really low ATAR, that doesn't mean you're dumb or stupid. It's really up to how you want to live your life. Once you enter the real world, it's up to your work ethic, the actions you take, how often you get out of your comfort zone, which I'm sure we'll get into, and all these other aspects, who you know, building a network, your marketing skills, how you can position yourself. There's so many variabilities that are outside of your mark. So it's super important that we don't let that define us. And I think that is a big reason, like, people in year 12 or final year of high school have so much stress on them, because everything goes towards that final mark. So they know, if I stuff up one time, that's going to affect my final mark, which means I can't get into the university degree I want to do, which means I'm a failure. And so there's so much pressure. People are in and out of hospital. I know a lot of people are seeing therapists, and they're like 17 years old, which is just crazy.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I see a lot of people, like, their parents had so much high expectations of them, and once they got the mark, it really defined them, like, for who they were. So you can't really define that mark for yourself. You just gotta really live the life that you want.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing.
Awesome. And so what did you do after high school?
So I tried a lot of things. I tried exploring into different trades. I tried getting into nursing. I failed that so many times just doing that test. So before you have to go in nursing, you have to do these tests. So the English and the maths test. I failed that multiple times. My parents was like, okay, we're going to go to a different TAFE just to get you into this TAFE. And so I tried, I failed and failed so many times that I was like, is there anything else that I can do? Like, is there anything that I can do just to achieve something? Because you start losing hope in yourself.
100%.
And it scares you. Like, it scares me, like, to, like, realize, what am I on this planet to do? Like, what's my purpose? And it really scares me.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important, the word you said there, hope. Like, when you're in a position like that, it is really important that you get those little wins. Like, how do you achieve a big goal? Little wins at a time, little steps at a time. If you set a massive goal and you just go, oh, I want to achieve this. How do you achieve that? You need to do little steps at a time. And every time you do a little step that gets you closer to your goal, you get that level of hope. There's actually a really messed up experiment, which is an incredible example of this. And they had the scientist, he put rats into, like, a bottle of water, and he tested to see how long they could like tread the water for. On average, the rats could tread for about 15 minutes. And just before they would give up and about to drown, he'd pull the rats out. So it's quite dark, right? But he'd pull them out. Then he'd put them back in. And he's like, I wonder how long they'll last for the second time. Now, he thought probably around the same mark, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes now that they've got the hang of it. They lasted 60 hours. 60 hours from 15 minutes. And this was a study on hope. Why did they last that long? Because the rats had experience being pulled out. So they kept clinging on to that hope that they might get pulled out again. So they just kept going because they had hope of being pulled out. And so we apply that to our life, by you getting, if you keep failing, all you need is like a little win here. I'll get a job here. Even though this isn't what I'm going to pursue, at least it makes me feel like I've got something and I can start building that momentum.
I totally agree with that, 100%. After that, I went through a state where I was trying to look for jobs every single day. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to try to do plumbing. And so one company called me out. I did the interview, I did the test, and they were like, okay, we're offering a new scholarship and we'd like to bring you in as an example. And so I was like, yes, 100%, why not? And so I was like, okay, before we get into the scholarship system, I want to tell you that I'm going to get the Apprentice of the Year. I told the CEO that I was going to get the Apprentice of the Year. My goal is to get the Apprentice of the Year. I didn't get that after a few months, but I got the Encouragement Award of the Year. And just like that transition from a 34.4 ATAR to getting a scholarship to telling the CEO that I was going to do something and I did it was the best feeling ever.
Especially when you probably haven't felt something like that before. Because the school system wasn't right for you and you struggled with that. So it links back to that win, small wins. That's super important. And so what was the scholarship for?
The scholarship was for plumbing.
Yeah, and that's what you're doing now.
Yeah.
You're full-time plumber as well as a few other things on the side.
Yes.
Yeah, and how are you finding that?
It's very, very hard. So like you come home exhausted and all you want to do is just take a rest or take a breath for yourself. But you can't, because like if you do, the whole system, the whole week will stuff up. And so I have to really discipline myself. If I want to make my dream a reality, I have to sacrifice things. So sometimes I'll go to the gym. Sometimes I'll shoot my own podcast. Sometimes I'll just dedicate time for TikTok. And yeah, like if you really want to sacrifice or make your dream a reality, it's got to sacrifice. And yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Amazing. No, that's really cool. It's cool to see you, pursuing all that, and especially after what you've gone through. But I think I did want to link back because I feel like the big message for this podcast could be getting out of your comfort zone, which I'm a huge advocate for. I speak at schools now. That's my school talk. So when I go to school, I talk about getting out of your comfort zone, and I've got a whole visual for it. We teach that and Empower You, the program that I'm a part of, and I teach at. How have you found that has affected your life? Obviously, you said seek discomfort, which is that from the Yes Theory?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, so Yes Theory created that clothing brand called Seek Discomfort, right?
Yeah. So how has it impacted my life? It's pretty much changed my whole life. Like, if I didn't start seeking discomfort, then I wouldn't be in the position I am today. I wouldn't be the person I'm here today. Like, I used to struggle with speaking just in person, but now I'm like getting better every single day. Like, I used to be not good at writing or reading, but now I'm 10 times better. Every single time when my mind's telling me, oh, let's just sit aside, let's just watch the TV and just rest for a moment, I'm like, no way, because if I do, then I'll be in that state again, and I don't want to be in that state. It's changed pretty much my entire life. I didn't know how to read or write, taught myself how to read or write. I thought running a marathon was humanly impossible, and so I did it, just to prove my mind that anything is possible. I started doing things that made my mind rethink the human body or rethink the human mind. And that's pretty much it, like telling my mind that anything is possible when you set your mind to it.
Yeah, well, the power of the mind is incredible. Like, I think what you kind of just said there was a growth mindset. There's the book Mindset by Carol Dweck or something. I forget, Carol Dweck or something, the author. And she says, growth mindset and a fixed mindset. There's two. A fixed mindset is if you start something and you're not good at it, you believe you're not good at it because you didn't pick it up immediately. And a growth mindset is when you start something and you understand that you're going to have to work at it. And so a fixed mindset would be like, oh, I'm not good at reading. I can't read or write. That's just how my brain works. That's a fixed mindset. Whereas a growth mindset goes, okay, if I stick to it, and what if I try this? What if I try this? What if I try this? And then over time, now you can read and write. And I think that's crucial to, getting out of your comfort zone. Adopt a growth mindset. And that's where school can be quite damaging. They really don't push the growth mindset on you. They push a very fixed mindset. And so that's why I say, like, people who do really well in school, depending on the person, often if they are naturally really good at school, they will have a very fixed mindset because everything's come to them quite easily. So once they enter the real world, they'll go, okay, whoa, stuff isn't coming to me easily, and maybe I must not be good at it. No, you could be good at it. You've just got to put in the work.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like you were saying, like, a lot of students expect things to come to them, like they're naturally good at things, and so they expect things like after high school to come to them. But life is so much harder than just high school itself. Like the ATAR, the exam you take, it's so much different to life, and people think that like a score can define you, but it really can't. So like, to be real, I feel like the only way to grow is to seek discomfort. And that's pretty much it. Like, if you have the discipline, if you have the mindset to just have that growth in you, you can pretty much do anything you like in the world.
Yeah, it is. There was so much opportunity in the world now, especially if you're in Australia. Australia's an incredible country. New Zealand, Australia, America, UK, a lot of European countries, all these developed countries, we have so much opportunity that we can take advantage of. And I think it starts with getting out of your comfort zone. I've found, because the thing is with the comfort zone, right? Every time you get out of your comfort zone, it's not going to be good. You might fail, but that's fine, because every time you get out of your comfort zone, whether you fail or whether you succeed, you're going to learn from it and you're going to grow. And so, like, I love to talk about the marathon part here, because obviously that's huge. What is that, 45 kilometers?
42.2.
42.2 kilometers. And that's, I've done a half marathon and I really struggled at that. So full marathon is an epic achievement. So how have you always been into fitness and that sort of stuff? Or how did you achieve something like that?
So how did I achieve that? I trained for 6 weeks, and people was like, you can't do this. There's no way you can do it for 6 weeks. So in 2019, I didn't really do much. And so I was like, let's just run a marathon. I've never heard of a marathon before. Like, my teacher was like, oh yeah, I just ran a marathon. And so I was like, oh yeah, what is it? And he was like, it's 42.2 kilometers and it's a long run. And I was like, you know what, let's just try it out. I had a knee meniscus. I wasn't able to walk for a while. And I was like, let's just do something challenging for myself. Going through the race, like, once you hit 35 kilometers, it mentally F's you up. And all you want to do is just keep going, but you can't. And I dropped like 20 times just from the finish line, like before the finish line, 200 meters away from the finish line. Paramedics came. I dropped straight to the ground completely. And I was gone for a minute straight. Like, my body just gave up completely. And I remembered David Goggins. He's the one that inspired me to run the marathon. And he was like, you can't hurt me. And I kept repeating to myself, you can't hurt me, you can't hurt me, you can't hurt me. And so I got up. Everybody started cheering because I was very young. Like, I was only 18. And I ran the whole thing just feeling motivated just to run the whole thing. My body didn't feel like doing it, but I really wanted it so bad that I achieved it. And that's how I did it.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. And like, David Goggins is a freak, right?
He's a freaking legend.
Freak. He is. If you read his book called You Can't Hurt Me, I've read it. I listened to an Audible. This guy, they say he's the toughest man in the world. Like, he's broken the world pull-up record. He's run ultra marathons, which are like 100 kilometers plus. Or 100 miles plus.
Yeah.
Like 160 kilometers.
It's crazy.
God, that's insane. And when you hear his story, he's just got such mental toughness because he had a very tough childhood, so that's kind of been ingrained into him. But he's just a freak. And one thing he says, and this is not backed up by science or anything, but he reckons whenever you hit 100% and you can't go any further, you're only at 40%. Like
Yeah.
you're only at 40%. You've still got 60% left in the tank. So whenever as humans we go, that's it, I'm done, I can't do any more, you've still got 60% left. And so as soon as you push through that, that's where you can actually understand. And that's all, it's all a mental game. Like running is such a mental game.
It is.
Obviously it's physical as well. There's that aspect. But once you get down to like marathon, as you mentioned, once you hit the 35 kilometer mark, you're like, man, my body's starting to slow down. I'm physically drained and everything, but mentally I've just got to push through.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, he's a very inspiring person. Like, he's pretty much flipped my life around. Like, he was the person who was like, I didn't know how to read or write.
Right.
So I could relate in a
Yeah,
way.
relate. Nice.
And I was the kid who was very shy and insecure, who never raised up his hand for help. And really just like accepting the fact that he was in that position, accepting the fact that he had that life and moving on. Like, he wanted to be great, or like he was saying that everybody can't be great in the world, but if you can just be your own great.
Whatever great is for you.
Yeah, 100%. And like, everybody can be their own great. You don't need to be the next Elon Musk or LeBron James, but every day you can be your own great. You can look up to yourself and just be like, wow, it's just amazing to live this life and get 1% better every single day.
Well, that's what success is, right?
Yeah.
Success is subjective.
Yeah.
Success is whatever success is to you. Success could be Elon Musk for you. It could be LeBron James level, or it could just be you're raising a beautiful family, and you know you work 9 to 5, 5 days a week, but you love what you do. You love raising your family. You spend time with them on the weekends. Success could be you drive a bus because you love doing that. Whatever it is to you, it's completely subjective. And so I love that. Like, you can be your own version of great, your own version of success. You don't have to be trying to attain what society dictates as successful, which is typically wealthy, running a company or something. It's totally subjective, which I think is a really important mindset to adopt.
Yeah, I like totally agree with that too. When it comes to setting one advice that I can give to young people is that just try and explore new things.
Yeah, 100%. It's so funny how often this comes up on my podcast. Like, this is one of my getting out of your comfort zone, and they kind of go in tangent, don't they? By trying to explore new things, you're getting out of your comfort zone, right? So they kind of go in tangent, but I think this is one of the biggest pieces of advice I give to young people, and to myself as well. It's like, just try new things. How do you figure out what you want to do with your life? Trial and error.
100%.
Just keep trying new things. Do this for a year. Okay, I clearly don't like that. Great. Now you know you don't like it. So now you can move on. You didn't just lose a year of your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that's crucial. And have you been doing that, obviously, with a marathon, with all these different things?
Yeah, I've been doing that. I've been trying new things just to really explore life in the whole different lifestyles, and trying new things just to even I'm not really religious myself, and I read the Bible. And I'm just trying new things.
Dude, I love that.
Yeah.
That's, to me, that's a level of open-mindedness, and that to me is a level of intelligence. If you can be open-minded, even if you're not religious, but you start reading the Bible to see what it's like, because you can get stuff from that. That's very inspiring to me. I talk about that a lot. Just I think being open-minded is one of the best things you can do.
Yeah, I also have this. I also feel like a lot of people has been in this state where, the highest positions of themselves. So let's say an employee feels like they have that power in them, but they use it for to power down or make people feel powerless, to bring them down just to make them feel on top. I feel like that's a very dangerous. A lot of people are in this position where they're using that unnecessary power for themselves. And I've been through an abusive employee where he threw me against the wall, and it was a point where he didn't let me eat, he didn't let me drink for 2 weeks straight because just unnecessary things, because he was running a successful business. He was chasing the money.
Successful?
Yes.
I say with bunny ears sort of thing.
Yeah.
Is it a success? Is it a successful business if you're abusing your employees?
Yeah.
I would say no.
No.
Of course not. But yeah, that's intense.
It is intense.
That's really intense. And how do you get through that?
David Goggins mentality. Really, I was I know. I was like, I didn't even know if I was going to live for that long. Like, there was a point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was mentally, physically, psychologically just drained from him swearing at me, him pushing me around. And a lot of people don't know this, but like, I feel like the trade industry, if you don't get your shit together, then things will get hard. Like, your boss will tell you and push you around. If you don't get in that position and be like, stand up for yourself, yeah, it's just really like you have to step on the pedal and really own yourself.
And you attribute a lot of that to reading books like David Goggins and I guess trying to improve your mentality. I guess personal development.
Yeah.
Like podcasts and stuff. Like, I'm a big fan of podcasts and books and stuff. I do think there can be a toxic side where you don't have to be reading and listening all the time. But just, upskilling yourself, learning about communication skills, learning about mindset, hearing. The cool thing about Goggins' story is he just retells the story, and all you do is, oh my God, he went through all this. My life, in comparison to him, has been a walk in the park. Yet he's achieved all this because he's just like such a tough mindset. It's like, what am I complaining about?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, once you start doing hard things, everything becomes easier afterwards. So like, I hate going cold showers. Until this day, I'm still doing it. And especially in the winter, I hate it the most. But once you start taking that first cold shower, everything like throughout the day becomes so much easier. Like, I just did a run this morning and I hated that run too.
Yeah.
But I did it and now everything's become easier. Like, I'm usually the person who struggles speaking like in person with a mic. But now I'm like pretty much warmed up, confident, and I'm ready to just tackle. So once you just do the hard things, everything becomes easier.
Well, that's that famous make your bed in the morning or something, which again goes back to the little wins. It's like why waking up early, it can be good because it's hard. And you go a lot of people go to the gym early or go for a run early because it's hard and or get a good start to my day. If I go to the gym or go for a run in the morning, I'm far less likely to eat junk food throughout the day because that would make the run redundant almost. So it's like, well, I've gone for a run this morning and I might as well keep up that momentum sort of thing. And that's once again linking back to that whole, hope experiment and the whole point of having small wins throughout your day. As you mentioned, if you can improve by 1% every day, it's 300%, 350% return in a year.
Yeah.
If you can improve by like 0.5% or even 0.1% every day, over 2 or 3 years, you've improved by 100%. Or by 5-10 years, you've improved by 100%, and that's huge.
That is huge. It's that's actually a lot if you really think about it. Like, that little 1% makes a big difference throughout the whole day, and like, people can take it in a good way or a bad way. So,
yes.
So you can consume all the content you like and not do anything, and just consume so much content in a day and not like take that action. Or you can get 1% better every single day. So you can go both. It can go both ways if you really think about it. If you really take that 1% to the next level, but it's the best feeling ever. Like,
well, you're so right. Like, that was one cool thing I got from Atomic Habits was the importance of habit. It's been understanding that we have, because when we say habits, we think about good habits, right? We think of what do? We wake up, we do this, we do this. But you've got to, and what's equally important is getting rid of your bad habits, because that's, maybe reducing your 1% every day sort of thing. And so by improving your bad habits or switching it, like maybe it doesn't have to be huge, as you mentioned. Like, for example, the marathon. You could listen to David Goggins and never do anything about it. Or you could listen to it and do what you did. But you don't listen to the book and then go run a marathon straight away. You listen to the book and you run 2 kilometers.
Yeah.
Then you run 3. And you do, 6 weeks of preparation. You do all this preparation so that you can eventually run it. I think that's just super important, because I've spoken about this a bit as well. We consume so much information, especially if you're in the personal development world. Like, you and I both kind of are. You consume so much information, but how often do we do something with that information? What's the point in listening if you're never going to do anything? What's the point in reading Atomic Habits if you're never going to improve your habits? What's the point in listening to these books if you're not actually going to do anything with it? It's like, listen to the books, listen to this podcast, and do stuff about it. I had a guy reach out to me. He sent me an audio message and he said, "Hey man, I need to buy you coffee next time you're around because I just landed a scholarship. I landed a fully paid scholarship to university after listening to one of your episodes because you told me just to apply." So he listened to the episode, then he went and applied, and he got a scholarship. I've had heaps of people like land internships and do all this cool stuff off the back of the podcast because it's really not that hard. It's really not that hard because very few people are hustling, like using these communication skills and using Instagram DMs to get internships or LinkedIn strategies. And so when I share them and people implement it, that's the best thing ever. So that would be a huge piece of advice I think you could probably agree with. Like, do something with it.
Yeah. I want to add on top with that.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Everybody has a skill. So you can get the university's degree you want. You can have the money you want, the financial freedom you want. But if you don't have the will to just take that action, it's nothing. Like, you can have all the skill, but if you don't have the will to willing to do it, you won't be able to achieve what you want. And so that's what I realized. I started really digging deep onto like my to-do list. Like, if I don't need to read for that time, I can do something that gets me 1% better to my goal. And so, like, you could say it's procrastination in a way. Like, I'm getting 1% better every single day, but am I getting 1% better to my goal? And there's a big difference between that. Like, I can read, meditate, take cold showers, shoot a podcast, but am I taking it to the next level and like achieving the goal that I want?
But yeah, I know what you mean, but I still think it's like with goals, there has to be a level of flexibility because like, how can you plan out your entire life, right? You can have aspirations, I think. You know, you might have an aspiration to achieve this or something. And by doing that, I think what you mentioned, even though that might not be going directly towards your goal, it is going to keep you mentally clear. It's going to keep you, keep your mindset clear. You're going to develop better as a person, which ultimately is going to get to your goal.
Yeah, I do agree with that too.
I think, and that's where a lot of people who talk about meditation, how does meditation doesn't tangibly get anyone closer to their goal unless they want to be like a meditation coach or something, but it does clear your mind. It does make you feel better. It does make you think better, which in a result is going to help you perform better throughout the day. And so I do think what those stuff you're saying, while it might not improve 1% towards your goal, it is still going to improve you that, 0.1% or whatever it is.
What I'm trying to say, like, I understand that, like, I do morning routines every day. But there was a point where I have to like shoot a podcast, but but I'd rather just read a book. Like, there's things that you have to do on your to-do list, but and you've done your morning routine, but you just want to do your morning routine again. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, what you prioritize more?
Have you seen that grid system, the quadrants? It's like I forget what it's called, but basically it's got urgent and important. And it's got like urgent and important is here, urgent and not important is here, then not urgent and important is here, then not urgent and not important is here. And so you filter all your stuff into these 4 quadrants. And so you go, what's urgent and important? That's obviously what I need to prioritize. But the one that people often put off, which is what you're saying, is urgent but not important. No, it's not urgent but important. And so because you don't have to get it done now, we'll put off all the other stuff. And that's what people get stuck in. This might be a little bit confusing to listeners.
No, it's 100%.
But the not urgent but important means it's still really important stuff to do, but because it's not urgent, we don't prioritize it. And that's the important little stuff that we often forget about, that stuff you're kind of mentioning. And that's where we can kind of get trapped in. And so if you want to Google that framework, maybe I'll link it in the bio, but that's a very, very famous way of sorting and prioritizing your tasks. So I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, I'm gonna research that and I'm gonna get into that, really. Yeah, so it came like during my life, I really, really struggled with just accepting the truth. I was a very stubborn person. Like, I didn't want to accept the fact that I was dumb. Like, in the mirror, didn't want to accept that I didn't know how to read. All I wanted to become was like an NBA player. Like, people would ask me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I told them, I see myself playing for Philadelphia next to Ben Simmons. And people would be like, oh yeah, okay. And I was like, yeah, I only see myself in the NBA. After dedicating 3 months straight, like training straight, I was about to train for the ABA, just the one below the NBL. I realized this is not for me. Like, dedicating 10 hours a day, every single day, I really hated my life for it. Like, I only did it for my friends. Like when everyone's surrounding you and you're doing it for your friends, it's so much easier. And when everybody leaves, it's lonely, it's cold, it's scary. Like at night in the dark, dribbling 2 balls and just it sounds crazy, but yeah, I realized it wasn't for me. So I realized I had to transition to something else, and so I did. I started taking small, tiny little steps, like you said, and that really changed my life. Like my biggest fear, how I conquer fears, how I overcome insecurities and fears is taking teeny tiny little steps. So I struggled with reading. And so I opened up the first book, read the first word. Okay, that was not bad. It was pretty easy. Like, and it was fulfilling too. And so I read the sentence, read the chapter, and then finished the book. And this first book ever, it was amazing. And after that book, you start realizing, oh, wow, you have the potential to grow. You have the potential to do anything you like in the world. Like if I can do this, if I've conquered my biggest fear, I can do anything I want in the world. And that's what I'm chasing for now. Like I'm chasing to be the best version of myself and making people's dream a reality. Yeah.
Well, that's the whole hope thing I mentioned. Yeah. Now that you've had that little taste, you can survive the 60 hours like the rat sort of thing. That's the way experiment, although it's very dark, it's quite interesting. Yeah, that's really cool. I don't know that about the NBA, but that's interesting you said about having people around you, because for me, that's been probably one of the biggest changes to my life, which has helped, just having good relationships around you has lifted every aspect of my life. Having good friends, I've always had good family members, but having good friends, I've got different friend groups now, and they all just lift me up. They're all incredible. I can bounce ideas off them, because running a business is incredibly lonely. As you mentioned, dribbling at night by yourself, that's incredibly lonely versus when you're doing it with some friends and stuff.
It is.
I'm sure even if you did the marathon by yourself, that's incredibly lonely versus doing it with a friend or something like that. I cannot stress how much of a game changer that's been to my life by getting good quality people around me. That's why I work for 530 Club. If you've heard that, it's a company I run with my mate Ori, we don't make any money from it at all. In fact, it costs us money and time to do this. But why do we do it? Because it just creates an incredible environment. Like the people there are incredible. I've made a lot of incredible friendships from there. Every time I meet people, I'm like, you should go to 530 Club, and I'll send them there, and they'll make all new friendships and stuff. And it's just beautiful. I think it's a really important part of life, and that's my advice I'd give to anyone who's struggling mentally or not sure what to do. It's like, get out of your comfort zone and start meeting amazing people, and you'll notice a big change in your clarity and how you're feeling mentally, for sure.
Yeah. So it's been like a very big struggle of mine just to really, like back in 2017, it was a big struggle of mine to accept the truth. And like you were saying, like surrounding yourself with winners. I'm a big believer, if you hang around with 5 losers, you'll become the 6.
Yeah.
If you hang around with millionaires, you'll become the 6.
Yeah.
So in my surroundings, I didn't have that team with me. And you were saying quality team. Quality team is everything. If you can have all the quantity you want, and if you can't have the best relationships, it's pretty much nothing. It's all about the quality over quantity. And I'm a big believer in the five people, if you hang around with 5 winners. And
yeah, it's a big one, and that often comes up on podcasts as well, because that's a very famous quote. Hang around 5 losers, you'll become the 6th. Hang around 5 winners, you'll become the 6th. Or hang around 5 millionaires, you'll become the 6th. Whatever it is, right? Hang around 5 incredible doctors, you'll become the 6th incredible doctor. Whatever it is, and it's true. I think it doesn't mean cut all your friends, but it means just try. Really focus on who you're surrounding yourself with. And for me, the first 3 years out of high school, I knew that quote, I knew how important it was, but I just didn't know how to meet people. I didn't know how to meet cool young people that I know now. And that's what I'm trying to do with the podcast, and trying to create in the future, create stuff where people can, like an online platform where people can, do meetups here, and we can connect young people all around Australia and all around Sydney and all that sort of stuff. And that's where Clubhouse was quite cool. Clubhouse allowed me to meet some really incredible people, and we've got a group chat now. Whenever some of our friends want to post a new TikTok, they'll post it in the group chat. We'll give them some feedback. We'll help them, structure it and stuff. We often jump on calls. Every week we do like a little mastermind where we bounce ideas and stuff. And I can't stress how much that has helped me once again, it hasn't literally helped my business. None of them are helping me run my business, but they're just helping me stay sane. They're helping me, feel connected, helping me. One of the 6 human needs, the 6 human needs, one of them is love and connection. We need love and connection. And in society, I feel like we're often not brainwashed, but pushed towards the lonely pathway because we see people like Iron Man. He built the Iron Man suit. Tony Stark built Iron Man suit by himself. All the superheroes, they all do everything by themselves. In the movies, all the big, alpha men that who are often the protagonists, they often do it by themselves. James Bond, right? And so I feel like we often go, oh, if we want to do it, we need to do it by ourselves and hustle hard. No, find incredible people. Find 5 amazing people, right? I think it's such an important thing to get across, and hopefully listeners can start to understand that. And I know it's tough. Like, do you feel like you have those 5? Or are you still searching?
I'm still searching for it.
Yeah, dude, totally. Everyone's still searching. I'm still searching. I've got a lot of cool people around me, but like, I'm always looking to meet new people like yourself. Like, how do you go about that? Like, how have you kind of met your friends so far?
Pretty like, to be real with you, I don't really hang around much, and I should, but my time is so limited that the only time I get to spend is my family. And I think the 5 people I hang around is my mum, my brothers and sisters. I have a big family myself of 9.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I have 6 siblings and 3 dogs.
Where do you sit?
I sit in the middle.
Yeah.
So 3rd place.
Nice.
And I have to be that example for like my brothers and sisters. It's scary at the same time because you're leading that example, and if you can't perform, that means they can't perform. I'm not trying to say that they can't perform, but like, you should always lead the standards for the family or your brothers and sisters that anything is possible when it comes to achieving something. So that's why I've been doing like running marathons and showing them that anything is possible. And so like, I see my brothers and sisters training at the gym, even though he's like 12 and 11, I'm training him. And it's exciting to even see my mom and dad training in the gym at the same time.
Yeah, wow.
It's very inspiring because like you were saying, if you hang around 5 winners, you'll become a winner yourself.
Dude, your family totally counts. That's a beautiful thing. If you're doing it with your family, like, I remember we set that up with my family. We'll do some stuff like that. We'll, mum and my sister do some runs together. We'll set kind of challenges. That's awesome. Like, if you're helping them get to the gym, helping them get fit, or whatever it is, like whatever you're interested in, I think that's really, really cool. And I agree. Like, I feel like you don't have to set a standard for your siblings, but you should lead. You should try lead by example, because if your 15-year-old brother is watching you do all this, of course he's going to start wanting to do it. He's going to want to start improving himself. He's going to go, well, if my brother can do that, then I can do it as well. And that's only going to be a good thing.
Yeah, it's the best feeling ever. Like, I spend quality time with my family and my family only, because like, time is if I just hang around with people, and like, I'm open to listening and being friends and getting into people's stories and being real with them. But I feel like family is everything. I don't know. For me, personally, I feel like family is everything, because I've been till the day I was born till now, like, everything, the bond is like crazy. And the only person that can understand me is my family.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you're incredibly lucky to have that. Yeah. Like, that's a beautiful thing. And I agree, I've got an incredible family as well. But I meet a lot of kids who don't, and it's really sad. Yeah. Like, with these events we do and with people who reach out to me, I know a lot of people who have, family members who have passed away or have been abusive, or they've got a really bad relationship with them. And yeah, it's really sad. And I think it's, privileged to have a really good family. And that's where it's like, well, if you don't have a good family or something, that's where you can start. You need to have some sort of relationships coming into you. I think it's really important. But anyway, dude, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
Before we wrap up, we'll do one final conversation. What is your number one piece of advice to younger people? It can be completely irrelevant from what we've spoken about. It can be anything you want. But if you had someone who's 17, 18 in front of you, what would you want to say to them to help them out?
I would say the only way to know that you're going to achieve something is if you tried. If you try new things. And it doesn't matter if you try it for a day, 10 minutes. If you tried, and once you tried and you see open doors to yourself, that's that's the door to becoming closer to yourself. And so if you just try, the only way to know is if you tried. So like for me, if I was the person who didn't want to run the marathon, who was scared of the 42.2 kilometers, I wouldn't know that I would complete it if I tried or not. And so just try.
Well, that's the thing. So there's two types of failure. The first one is a failure to try. And then there's a failure of, failing at whatever you tried at. And so it's like, if you're going to fail, you might as well try. Because even if you fail the marathon, at least you gave it a shot.
Yeah.
And maybe you'll fail. And I think David Goggins said that with the pull-up thing. He failed the first few attempts. It was on the fourth one or something, or the second one. I don't know. I know he definitely failed the first one. And so, all right, how do I improve? Because as I mentioned before, even if you fail, you're going to learn from it and you're going to grow from it. So once you recognize that, it's like, just start trying. I agree. It's great advice. Just try. Just try.
And one more? Can I?
Yeah.
Can I give one more?
Yeah.
Stop looking at the big picture and just take the first step. So if you're thinking to do a workout and you're struggling to start, just grab your shoes and tie them up. Just look at the first step. Stop looking at the second step. Look at the first step.
First step is to get dressed.
Yeah.
Second step is to, put your music on. That sort of stuff. Yeah.
Stop looking at the big picture. Like you were saying, success is all about the tiny, teeny, tedious steps. It's boring, but to get there, it's success. Success is the process. It's not about the end result.
Well, it's funny because have you listened to many biographies of like people sharing their stories and stuff? So obviously David Goggins is one, right? In all of these biographies you listen to, there's usually like a 10-year period where they don't even talk about, like when they're 30 to 40 or something, and they'll just like graze over it in like half a chapter. They'll spend all this time here, then there'll be like a 10-year period where they don't talk, because that's when they're just working. That's when they're doing all their steps, because there's nothing to really talk about. They'll be like, yeah, and here I met my wife here or something, and I'll say something, but they don't really, there's always big periods where they skip out during the biography, or they'll just have, they'll spend one chapter on 10 years and then 6 chapters in a 1-year period where something exciting happened. That's because that's where they're grinding. That's where they're doing the work, and they're just doing day to day. The same with me. Like, I didn't show much. Only now I'm starting to do a bit more speaking and, really put my stuff out there a bit more. The first kind of 2-3 years I was just in the office. There was nothing to really show. But obviously all we see on social media is the once I've made it. Yeah.
Well, I want to ask one question for you.
Yeah.
What drives you every day, and what makes you you?
For me, like I kind of mentioned to you, I encourage at the beginning of every episode for people to DM me on Instagram, and I get a lot, and they're like, people like pour out their whole heart. I've got essays. I've had people like, hey Byron, love the podcast. As I mentioned, that guy got a scholarship. I have people say it gives me so much hope and all that. I get the most beautiful DMs. It's honestly that for me is kind of what drives me. The fact that I know I'm impacting people. Obviously I get downloads and stuff, but you never know how much of downloads convert into like a proper impact. And so for me, when I get that stuff, and even though I'm not making much money right now, like with Empower You, that personal development event we run, it gives you all 6 human needs. It gives you certainty. It gives you variety. It gives you love and connection. It gives you growth. It gives you contribution. It gives you all that was a 5. I forgot the 6th one, but it gives you all those things. So you're feeling just, really incredible. So yeah, that's just for me. It's something I'm passionate about. I'm just seeing so many young people struggling in life, and it breaks my heart. So if I can help make a little impact in that, that's enough for me to keep going. And it's just fun, to be honest. I'm just loving the journey. That was one of the things I was saying, like, if you can learn to love the journey, or just learn to love the struggle, learn to love the process, because we're going to look back on these days in 20, 30 years and be like, they were the good old days. All the super successful millionaires and everything, all celebrities, they all go back, man, the good old days back when I had no money, I was a struggling actor, just trying to make it, living on a couch. They were the best times. And so you hear all these people say it, and it's like, well, maybe I'm in the good old days right now. Even though I don't have everything I want, I'm, just trying to enjoy the process.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. That's like the best feeling ever.
Yeah. Well, thanks for asking the question. But otherwise, man, thank you so much for coming to the show. This was a really cool conversation.
Thank you.
I think there's going to be a lot of value in here. If anyone wants to get in contact with you, reach out to you on Instagram. Where should they go?
Instagram, Martin La _PT.
Yep.
And TikTok, Martin Mentality.
Yeah, and I'll link all that below, so everything will be there. Guys, please go message Martin if you've got any questions. If you enjoyed the episode, go let him know. I just told you how much I love getting DMs. I love when my guests get DMs and they share it with me, like, Byron, I got 5 messages from people. Like, it's really awesome. So go message him, have a chat. But otherwise, Martin, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. It's been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this entire episode of the podcast. The fact that you would sit there and listen to me for so long is awesome, and I love you for that. Thank you so much. Just real quick, I am starting to speak at schools a lot more frequently now. So if you're in Australia, specifically Sydney, and either you're a student, maybe you're a teacher, or you've got a brother or sister in school, or you have any connections at all and you want me to come speak at a school or any presenting things, I am looking to ramp that up a lot. I've got a really cool school talk I've been working on for a few months now. I've just started speaking at a bunch of schools. It's been going really well. So yeah, go to the link in the show notes or go to drivenyoung.com and you'll see school talks up the top, and just click on that and send me an email. Otherwise, yeah, figure out any way to get in contact with me. I've also got the Sexual Assault podcast, which is now live with Brent Sanders. Go check that out. It's called Consent and Consequences. That is a Driven Young Productions podcast. It's something I'm very proud of. So there's lots going on. Definitely go check it all out. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening to this entire episode, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and week.